It could be Elon Musk taking a position in the silver space, Neumeyer said. Quote, there's going to be a catalyst at some time, and headlines in Wall Street Journal might talk about the silver supply deficit. I don't know what the catalyst will be, but investors and institutions will wake up to the fundamentals of the metal, and that's when it will start to move. This week's specials for Miles Franklin are 1 ounce 2023 silver Krugerrands only $3.10 over spot, along with the beautiful 1 ounce gold Australian backdated kangaroos for only $59 over spot. We have the lowest competitive pricing, weekly discounts, personal service by yours truly, one of, if not the most reputable, trusted, and reliable company in the United States, and we have the largest inventory of precious metals I've personally ever seen. I'm truly honored to be able to offer my subscribers a cheap and safe way to purchase precious metals. Once again, that's Slayer@milesfranklin.com. Now let's jump into the video. Keith Neumeyer is the CEO of First Majestic Silver, one of the biggest silver miners in the United States. Keith is extremely bullish on silver, and rightfully so, because he understands the severity of the shortage, since he is one of the few that are digging it out of the ground, or attempting to. So, with that said, we are about to break down an article titled, Silver Price in Triple Digits, Is That a Rational Possibility or a Dream? A lot of people say triple-digit silver is off the table, but once you look at the bigger picture, it really starts to make sense of how little $100 is USD and how valuable an ounce of silver is, right? Try to compare it like that. $100 is worthless, especially as the dollar is depreciating in purchasing power every single day. But an ounce of silver is always going to have 1 ounce of silver inside of it, regardless of the price tag attached to it, regardless of who says that 1 ounce coin is worth what is irrelevant, because the coin's value is the ounce of silver inside of it, not the price tag, not the spot price. But people compare silver to spot price, and that's why they have these misconceived notions of what silver is going to do or should have done or will do, and they just are missing, they're missing the bigger picture, right? So, like, prime example, silver prices are utterly undervalued. Is upside correction finally about to start? How long will silver prices retain on sale status despite a supply deficit? Silver markets are manipulated, could now move forcefully to the upside, right? Silver is extremely cheap, right? It's on sale, it really is. And anyone who's saying that $27 silver isn't on sale, then it means one of two things. One, you don't understand the true value of silver, or even more importantly, number two, you don't understand the value of a dollar. Those go hand in hand. So anyways, with that said, let's jump into this article where Keith Neumeyer breaks down $100 silver. And I would love for you guys to comment down below what you think silver will do over the next year or so. Do you think $100 silver is possible, and when? I've been very vocal about when I think silver will hit triple digits, and that's by the year 2026, late 2025, 2026-ish. I think that by then we'll be deep enough into the silver shortage. I think everything will be, I think by then it will be blatantly obvious. You cannot sweep silver's suppression and its true value under the rug by then. That's my thoughts. Some people say a lot sooner, some people say later. That's just what I've been saying, and I've been saying this for like 4 or 5 years now. 2025, 2026. Go back. I didn't just randomly make that up now. I've been calling those years for a long time, and we are getting closer to those years. And now things are starting to fall into place more, looking like I will be right. Not saying I will be, but that's just my opinion. So, the silver price made waves in 2020 when it rose above $20 per ounce for the first time in 4 years. The precious metal has largely stayed above that level since, even reaching as high as $29.59, and actually was $29.90 after this article was written, which this article was written February 29th. So, nonetheless, well-known figure Keith Neumeyer, CEO of First Majestic Silver, has frequently said he believes the white metal could climb even higher, eventually reaching into triple digits. Neumeyer has voiced this opinion often in recent years. He put up a $130 price target in November of 2017 with Palisade Radio, and has reiterated his triple-digit silver price forecast in multiple interviews with Kitco, the latest in March 2023. He also discussed it in an August 2022 interview with Wall Street Silver. I really enjoy listening to Keith Neumeyer speak. If you've ever seen any of his interviews, he's a brilliant guy, very smart. He understands the silver market in and out, right, through its entirety. Some people, they're missing that puzzle piece of they will talk about silver with interest rates and CPI data and all that. They will go perfectly into that and they'll break down the technicals, but they're not incorporating a major thing, sometimes two, the fundamentals of the supply deficit and price suppression. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about one or the other, but you rarely hear people talk about all of it through and through. So at times, he's been even more bold, suggesting in 2016 the white metal could reach $1,000 if gold were to hit 10,000. Now, why is he saying 1,000 if gold hits 10,000? Because he's going off the gold to silver ratio. The ratio it comes out of the Earth's crust is around 7 or 8 to 1. So he's saying if gold hits 10,000 and the ratio starts to, or the man-made, manipulated ratio of 85 to 1 breaks down to what it used to be for thousands of years, 8 to 1 or 16 to 1, you could argue, depending on how long ago. Even 2.5 to 1 in ancient biblical times, 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold. It's the earliest gold to silver ratio known to man, pun intended. But regardless, he's saying that someday that silver could detach from gold and they would not be moving in tango as closely as they do, which I also believe. That's why he would say $1,000 silver if gold hits 10,000. So more recently, his expected timeline for $100 silver has been pushed back, but he remains very bullish on the metal in the long term. In order to better understand where Neumeyer's opinion comes from and whether a triple-digit silver price is really in the cards, it's important to take a look at the factors that affect the metal's movements, as well as where prices have been in the past and where other industry insiders think silver could be headed. First, let's dive a little deeper into Neumeyer's $100 prediction. Fun fact, by the way. Since Keith Neumeyer is one of the biggest silver miners in America, I think the biggest is Hecla Mining. Phillips Baker, the CEO of Hecla Mining, he came out and mentioned what he pulled out of the ground last year. How much do you think the biggest silver miners produce annually? Just think about it. Do you think it's 100 million ounces? I mean, because think about it. The global demand for silver is 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion ounces. So what are the biggest silver miners in America pulling? What if I told you that it was nowhere near what you think? Lower, much, much, much lower. Because I guarantee you're thinking at least 50 million or something. I mean, 1.2 billion ounce demand and we're the biggest silver miners in America. Had to be doing something, right? No. 16 million ounces was a record year, one of the biggest years for Phillips Baker, the CEO of Hecla Mining. Keith Neumeyer pulls around 10 million ounces out of the ground annually. Only 10 million. Think about that for a second. 10 million. So, why is Neumeyer calling for $100 silver? There's a significant distance for silver to go before it reaches the success Neumeyer has boldly predicted. In fact, in order for the precious metal to jump to the $100 mark, its price would have to increase from its current value by around 350%. So Neumeyer has previously stated that he expects a triple-digit silver price, in part because he believed the market cycle could be compared to the year 2000, when investors were sailing high on the dot-com bubble and the mining sector was down. He thinks it's only a matter of time before the market corrects like it did in 2001 and 2002, and commodities see a big rebound in pricing. It was during 2000 that Neumeyer himself invested heavily in mining stocks and came out on top. Quote, "I've been calling for triple-digit silver for a few years now, and I'm more enthused than now," Neumeyer said at an event in January of 2020, noting that there are multiple factors behind his reasoning. Quote, "But I'm cautiously enthused because, I thought it would have happened sooner than it currently is happening." And that is the thing that a lot of people really, that's the hardest part about trying to predict silver's price or a time frame, is because it's manipulated. So, of course, you have to try to figure out when that manipulation will end, because it will end. If you saw my video yesterday, Ted Butler did a brilliant job of breaking down COMEX corruption and how he mentions that this will not survive forever. So in his August 2022 interview with Wall Street Silver, he reiterated his support for triple-digit silver and said he's fortunately not alone in this optimistic view. In fact, he's been surpassed in that optimism. Quote, I actually saw someone the other day call for $500 silver, he said. Quote, I'm not quite sure I'm at that level. Give me $50 first and we'll see what happens after that. There's a few good points to break off of, and I'll probably not be able to finish this entire article because, there's a lot here, and he's saying some stuff that I really want to branch off of and talk a little deeper into, but there's two things that we should talk about. First, $500, why would someone say that high? Well, there's a couple reasons. One is because they understand price suppression and how suppressed silver's price really is and what opportunity silver has when, not if, when that price suppression ends, right? How can you tell, or how could you determine what an ounce of silver is worth after decades upon decades of manipulation, especially comparing it to a dollar that's lost 98% of its original purchasing power, is getting kicked off as the world's reserve currency. Nobody's trading dollars anymore. Russia just canceled, Russia's not using dollars anymore. All these countries are opting out, so de-dollarization is happening. We don't even know if the dollar will exist in a few years. So with all of that, plus, trying to compare fake money to real money, on top of that, and the shortage and how there's this new age of silver that's being used, how can you really tell what it is worth? Or how could you say that a certain price is too pricey? I mean, think about it. Hold a $100 bill in your right hand, hold a 1 ounce silver coin in your left hand. Which one's more valuable? The $100 in 5 years will be able to give you a fourth of what it can now, if it even exists by then. But that ounce of silver is always going to have an ounce of silver inside of it, and as time goes on, it's going to be more useful as the dollar becomes more worthless. Once you can look at it from that perspective, it starts to make sense why $500 silver might not be that crazy, not right now, but in a few years. And why he says $50, then we'll see what happens, is because there's been a strong resistance level at $50 from 1980 with the Hunt brothers cornering the market, almost exposing COMEX price corruption, the manipulation, which in return pushed the price to the highest price it's ever been still till this day, which speaks for itself. But also in 2011, when silver hit $49, couldn't break above $50. So there's a lot of resistance there, but once it breaks above 50, the sky's the limit, especially since there's been that resistance for so many decades now. So another factor driving Keith's his prediction is the supply deficit, right? And that is where he really should come in, because he is the expert at that, since he is the one that's digging it out of the ground. In a May 2021 interview, when presented with supply-side data from Silver Institute indicating the biggest surplus in a silver market history, Neumeyer was blunt in his skepticism. I think these numbers are made up. I wouldn't trust them at all, which guess what? They were. They had to revise them. He pointed out that subtracting net investments in silver ETPs, or exchange-traded products, leaves the market in a deficit, and also questioned the methodology behind the Institute's recycling data, given that most recycled silver comes from privately owned smelters and refineries that typically don't make those figures public, along with they don't incorporate military or aerospace in their annual numbers as well. So the Silver Institute's numbers are completely made up, or are extremely under-exaggerated to the umpteenth degree, because military and aerospace uses more silver than solar alone, and solar is the #1 sector for silver. When we talk about these numbers, solar's #1. But military and aerospace, they use more silver than solar, but military and aerospace isn't even incorporated in the annual demand. So when we talk about 1.2 billion ounces, it's actually much, much, much higher than that. So record-breaking supply deficits are actually much, much, much worse than that. So he goes on to say, I'm guessing the mining sector produced something in the order of 800, maybe 825 million ounces in 2022. Neumeyer said when giving a fourth quarter 2022 overview for his company. Quote, consumption numbers are like they're somewhere between 1.2, 1.4 billion ounces. That's due to all the great technologies, all the newfangled gadgets that we're consuming. Electric vehicles, solar panels, windmills, you name it. All these technologies require silver. That's a pretty big supply deficit. And then, more controversially, Neumeyer's of the opinion that while the white metal will eventually become uncoupled from its sister metal gold, it should be seen as a strategic metal due to its necessity in everyday appliances, from computers to electronics, as well as technologies mentioned above. He has also stated that silver production has gone down in recent years, meaning that, the contrary to popular belief, he believes the metal is actually a rare commodity, and it is. It really is. It's getting harder and harder to find silver. Most silver is thrown away. Recycling isn't much. There's very few primary silver mines. Silver is a byproduct found by accident. Neumeyer's March 2023 triple-digit silver call is long-term, and he explained while he believes gold will break $3,000, he thinks silver will only reach $30 in 2023. However, once the gold to silver ratio is unbalanced, he believes silver will begin to take off and it will just need a catalyst. That catalyst could be Elon Musk taking a position in the silver space, Neumeyer said. There's going to be a catalyst at some time, and the headlines in Wall Street Journal might talk about the silver supply deficit. I don't know what the catalyst will be, but investors and institutions will wake up to the fundamentals of the metal, and that's when it will start to move, right? When everyone starts to realize how valuable silver is. So in an August 2023 interview with Silver News, Neumeyer discussed his belief that banks are holding the silver market down. He pointed to the paper market for the metal, which he said the banks have capped at $30, even in times of high buying. Quote, if you want to go and buy 100 billion ounces of silver in the paper market, you might not even move the price because some bank just writes you a contract that says you own that. Quote, he explained, saying banks are willing to get short because once the buying stops, they push the price down to get investors out of the market and buy the silver back, end quote. If miners started pulling their metal out of current systems, then all of a sudden the banks wouldn't know if they're going to get the metal or not, so they wouldn't be taking the same risks they're taking today in the paper market. That's probably one of the most brilliantly, straight to the point, he said that so incredible. That's exactly the game plan. That is what's happening. That's how the price is being suppressed. If you went and bought 100 billion ounces of silver, that would have definitely affected the price. We're talking about something that's fundamental, supply and demand. There's not that much physical silver, but they say there is. So that ounce of silver you hold in your hand, theoretically, hundreds of other people own that same ounce online. And they think they own that ounce online. If they tried to turn it in, or if everyone tried at the same time, it would expose that there's not a one-to-one ratio. There's way more paper contracts. They're oversaturated in the market. And that's illegal. It's a facade. It's all a facade. And that's what the Hunt brothers tried to expose in 1980, but then the government banned silver on the spot because they were like, they would have exposed it. They were about to. These three billionaire brothers bought billions of dollars in silver, turned all the contracts into physical delivery. And the government was like, whoa, hold. Some people say they owned up to 70% of all the silver. 70%. I don't think it's that much, but some people said that. That's just an idea of how much they owned, and they tried to turn it all into physical. The government wouldn't allow that. One, it would expose the price of silver, and two, even in 1980, we still used silver enough to where that would have literally just crashed the economy, as there's not enough silver to make anything anymore because these three guys have it. So they banned silver on the spot, pushed this law called Silver Rule 7, and then you had to sell it, by the way. You couldn't sell it to friends, or you had to sell it back to the Federal Reserve, and then that led to Silver Thursday, where the price shot down from $50 to back to however many, $8, whatever. Within 1 day, it dropped over 50%. Anyways, that's just a little backstory of what happened back then, and also how this would happen again if we were to see that hand get played. So anyways, the month after the interview, his company, First Majestic, launched its own 100% owned and operated mining facility named First Mint. So what factors affect the price of silver? Well, in order to glean a better understanding of precious metals' chances of trading around $100, it's important to examine the elements. The strength of the dollar, interest rates, that's a big one. Why central banks' actions are important to gold. By extension of silver, it's a key driver of geopolitical uncertainty, right? They're called safe havens. There's a lot of things. Does historic price action support $100? Well, it depends, right? After spending half the 2010s and the late teens, 2020 seemed largely hold above $20. And that's a good point. Most of my stacking career, silver's been $15. The average price for silver over like the last 10, 11 years has been $15. But there's a lot of new stackers, so they are desensitized to higher prices. They started, let's say, 2021, early, February 2021 during the Wall Street silver movement. That got a lot of attention. A lot of new stackers formed there. They're used to like $28 silver. So right now they're like, okay, well, this is what it's always been. But no, actually, I remember the first time silver broke above $20. The July 2016 high of $21 silver we celebrated, like silver won the Super Bowl. That was just $21. But that was back in 2016, right? And I was still making daily videos back then. Still, way back then, I was still doing what I'm doing right now, making daily videos about silver. I remember making that video where it broke above $21. That's so crazy to think about, almost a decade ago. I was still doing this, and I will be in a decade from now. So anyways, goes into, can silver hit $1,000? I mean, that's not even I don't know. Seems unlikely, but that silver reach those highs. But what's the time frame? I mean, think about in 10 years from now. I mean, think about how much has happened in the last year, in the last month alone. But think about 10 years from now. What would the dollar look like? It probably won't exist. Every fiat-based system lasts around 100 years, around a century. The USD is the longest lasting. It's on its last leg, lost 98% of its purchasing power. Nobody's using it anymore. Countries are opting out. There's a new digital currency backed by physical commodities. The United States is just sanctioning everyone and not even letting them take their own money, gold. I mean, it's definitely a huge power shift worldwide. And that's going to affect the price of metals, especially as you see all the biggest, most powerful countries buying all the silver. India, their silver imports up 265% this year from last February. China, biggest importer of silver, massive. Russia, massive amounts of silver and gold. Why are all the most powerful, biggest countries in the world accumulating so much silver and gold? It's like they know something, don't they? Anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. This is a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember Slayer at milesfranklin.com if you want to purchase. We got Krugerrands for $310 over spot. And we also have some other great prices, though. Just email me. I'll hook you guys up. Remember to subscribe. I'm doing a giveaway. I'll be jumping out of an airplane in 3 days. 3 days from now, on May 2nd, I'm jumping out of an airplane, announcing the 2 winners of my giveaway. I'm starting to get scared. I'm not scared. My daughter is more scared than I am, actually, which is actually pretty sad. I shouldn't have told her I was doing this. She's only 4. It was probably a bad idea to tell her that Dada's jumping out of an airplane, but yeah. She should know, though, right? I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, though, I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like the video. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.